Since the moment man learned to measure time, he has sought to understand history. Yet history is not an impersonal mechanism in motion, nor a mere sequence of accidents, wars, and coincidences. History is pedagogy. It is the long road through which God educates his creature, leading it from folly to knowledge, from delusion to truth. In its deepest essence, history is theology. Human ages change, ideologies rise and collapse, but God remains. Time, which wears down all things, holds no power over the Logos. For the Logos was in the beginning, and through him all things came to be. Therefore, when man seeks the meaning of history, he must not view events as isolated, but as links in a single, unified design. If God is eternal, then time is the shadow of his eternity within the world. From the moment the Logos became incarnate, time ceased to be merely a natural phenomenon. It became a historical space of salvation. Time acquired depth. It no longer flows mechanically, it educates. The entire Old Testament is a workshop of divine pedagogy. God speaks to Abraham, tests Job, and instructs Israel through captivity. Every event there is not accidental, it is a lesson. God does not abolish human freedom, he educates it, so that it may come to recognize the truth. Thus, when Christ appears, all of time is added into a single person. The eternal Logos enters history, the timeless becomes historical. History, once a disorderly path, is transformed into a road of revelation. By becoming incarnate, the Logos does not merely enter time, he sanctifies it. Christ is born in a specific age, in a specific place. History is no longer a backdrop, but a participating reality. The theology of history begins there, in the cave of Bethlehem, where the eternal Logos consents to be measured by the arithmetic of human years. From that moment on, all of history becomes revelation. The world is no longer indifferent or meaningless. Events, even the tragic ones, can bear spiritual significance. The cross is not a defeat, but the climax of the divine plan. The resurrection does not abolish history, it crowns it. Here lies the very foundation of every Orthodox understanding of time. Time is a place of salvation, not a prison. Divine providence does not act outside of time, but within it. Just as a child learns through its mistakes, so too does humanity learn through history. History bears wounds, wars, injustices, falls, yet these wounds become a path of healing when man reads them in the light of God. The Church has always viewed history as pedagogy. Saint Gregory the theologian speaks of God who played in the worlds, not out of frivolity, but because all creation is a pedagogical exercise of love. God permits the fall, but for the sake of rising again. He allows estrangement, so that we might come to long for communion. Thus, history becomes a school, not a school of human power, but of divine patience. God teaches the human race through successive ages, from innocence to the fall, from law to grace, from shadow to light. Each era, however dark it may seem, contains within it a work of God. From antiquity, man sought a Logos amid the disorder of events. Heraclitus was the first to speak of the Logos as the principle of cosmic harmony. Yet Christ reveals that the Logos is not an abstract principle, but a person. When the Logos unites himself with time, history gains a heart. History is no longer an impersonal becoming, but a dialogue between God and man. God speaks through events, man responds with his freedom. History, therefore, is a liturgy, where time is offered to God and becomes sanctified. When man ceases to see history theologically, he begins to see it mechanically, and then everything appears meaningless. The loss of the Logos brings chaos. Where God is absent, time becomes a mere cycle of decay. But where the Logos is present, time becomes a path to resurrection. One mystery always remains. If God guides history, what role does human freedom play? The answer is not simple. Yet the theology of history shows that God does not abolish freedom, He cooperates with it. God neither predestines evil nor cancels our choices. But even through our failed steps, He continues to write a plan of salvation. If we observe the history of nations, we see that God acts with wondrous patience. When man grows proud, He allows the fall. When he repents, He renews. Sacred history follows the same rhythm we see everywhere, from Babel to Pentecost, from the crucifixion to the resurrection. Freedom does not annul providence. Providence does not crush freedom. History is the meeting place of the two. In the modern world, where God has withdrawn from public discourse, history appears as chaotic disorder. Man strives to explain everything in sociological or psychological terms, yet the soul of the world suffocates. When history ceases to have meaning, life itself ceases to have purpose. Man then seeks meaning in ideologies, technologies, or fabricated hopes. Yet history takes its revenge. Without a theological horizon, it becomes an endless cycle of repeated false hopes. Progress turns into mere repetition, and time, once a path, becomes a prison. The theology of history is the only perspective that opens the horizon of true freedom. The world has a purpose, time has an end, and history leads somewhere, toward the kingdom of God. Time, for man, is like the womb for the child, a place of formation. History is the realm where God shapes us, so that we may become capable of receiving eternity. The Church lives this divine pedagogy through the liturgical year. Time is sanctified. Christmas, the resurrection, Pentecost. These are not mere anniversaries, but mystical repetitions of divine action within time. Man does not stand outside history, but participates in its sanctification. All of history, then, leads toward the day when time itself will cease to exist, not because it will be destroyed, but because it will be transformed. Just as the seed dies in order to rise again, so too will time dissolve into eternity. The theology of history is not a theory, but a hope. When Christ says, "Behold, I am with you always," He reveals that time is no longer a desert, but the dwelling place of the divine presence. The person who understands history as divine pedagogy ceases to fear the past or the future. He perceives in events the logos weaving a design and recognizes that nothing is accidental. The fall, the exile, the renewal, all are part of a dramatic yet merciful plan of salvation. History is the pedagogy of God. Time is His school, and the logos is the teacher. Time without the logos is decay. The logos without time remains unexpressed. Their meeting is history, the realm where God educates humanity toward salvation. Whoever reads history theologically sees that there is no chance, but pedagogy, no accidental past, but a sacred future moving toward the revelation of God within the world.